Director. Can you just briefly introduce yourself?
Yes, hi Salil, good morning.
Hi.
My name is Amit Mirajkar. I've been working with ACH Management Consultants for the best part of 6 years now. Prior to that, I was working with an international BPO in the capacity of a team leader.
Okay.
So, working as an executive search firm, started initially as a consultant, but then have grown through the ranks and has been a very great experience working with ACH, especially from the job satisfaction point of view. Because
Wonderful.
working with the BPO, handling escalations, the job was very pretty much easy, but the job satisfaction was kind of lacking.
Very nice. Pranav Singla, do I know you? Are you the Pranav Singla that I know?
Yes, sir. Hi, good morning.
Okay, good. And so is Roni Chapo.
Hi, morning, Salil.
Hi.
I
So
don't think we have met.
no, we've not met. Yeah, you
Yeah.
spelled the Roni differently. I know another Roni Chapo actually.
Oh,
So,
that's very rare.
so where do you work?
I'm currently in Colombo, Sri Lanka, working for FMCG company.
Wonderful. Sarvanan.
So I think we can start off now.
Okay, no worries.
So yeah,
So I think we have, yes, Sarvanan, Shrutesh, Shrutika, Vaibhav. Would you like to just quickly introduce yourselves? Okay, I guess people would like to remain
Hello.
silent. So, yeah, hi, Sarvanan. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning, all.
Yes,
Can you able to hear my voice?
yes, Sarvanan.
Hello.
I am able to. Okay, I guess I'll start, and hopefully it's a small audience. I would like it to be interactive, but let's go right in. So the topic is leading beyond the urgent. I think the and I have been first of all let me share with you that Sandeep has been asking me to do a session for the HPCP for quite some time, and I have been postponing it. I have been procrastinating it. So I don't know whether I am really qualified for talking about this particular topic. Because leading beyond the urgent is about time management, doing which is things which are important, and I'm sure that HPCP is doing a lot of important work. But at this point in time, then I thought that let me go ahead and share some of my thoughts about time management. Let me share about my journey, right? So in no way am I an expert, but at the same time, I think it is my journey might help some of you in your journey. So let me start. So this is a brief about me for those who don't know me. I have done my engineering in 94, my management in 1997, and then I have had a career for the last around 28, 29 years, where I have worked largely in Asian Paints for 10 years, and last 13 years I was in Pidilite. I was managing businesses like Dr. Fixit, Roff, the rural venture of Pidilite, and Fevicol, of course. And I have now just about joined Bajaj couple of months back in Bajaj Auto, uh, managing the spares vertical, right? So that's briefly about me. So what does leading beyond the urgent mean to all of you? So if some of you would like to just say what does that mean, what does that say to you?
Hi, Salil. Ashish here. I
Yeah,
think
Ashish.
sometimes we are doing our business as usual, and it's been months that you really don't think what you want to achieve after a year. I think that for me is, can I still devote 10 to 20% of what I want to do beyond urgent or day to day, as I'll take out from this topic.
Okay, very good, very good. So, so what it means is that, see, urgent things constantly keep on flowing, but how can we rise above that? So that is what Ashish says, and how do we allocate some time? I think it is absolutely the right thing.
Yeah.
So,
And eight minutes. Can I come in?
yeah, Ravi.
There are a couple of hands raised. So can we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Vaibhav has raised his hand sometime back, I think.
And then Pranav.
Pranav as well, yeah. Yeah, Pranav.
Yeah. So, sir, I think that within our work, there are a number of tasks lists that we need to focus on. But given the nature of work, the task lists keep on increasing and the priorities keep on changing. So, probably in this session, I would like to learn that apart from the task list, how can we manage our time better?
Right. Absolutely. So let's go right in. I'll complete some of the topics, and then if you guys have any questions, we can talk about it. So remember, it is a journey, right? And so, I asked ChatGPT that what would this topic really mean? If I ask the audience, what would they say? So this is a word cloud that ChatGPT actually made for me. So this is about strategic thinking. Maybe it is about prioritization, leadership, vision, long-term picture, and proactive decision making. It's about balance. It's about growth, right? So a lot of topics that come in onto this. But I'm going to keep this discussion to first let's understand the why, as to why is time management so important. Okay. And how does that change as you look at the 6 leadership transitions? There is always, we know about this Eisenhower matrix that is there. Is there a better model to think about, and have I undergone something like that? And how do you then make more time? Is it possible to make more time out of what you do? Okay, because that seems impossible. Then we'll look at, it is not only about our time, it is about the organization's time, and how do you get the organization to prioritize. And then you look at what is multitasking and what is focus, and then how do you look at developing an ability to focus. So this is going to be the flow of the discussion. So why does time management matter? I think as managers, the only thing that we have, and if you can manage time, then you can manage everything. If you cannot manage time, then you cannot manage anything else. So these are some of the things that, well-known speakers have talked about. So time should not be looked at something that you spend. You look at time as something that you have as a resource and you are investing in it, right? Personal time, you can say you're spending it, but the real thing is investing your time on business, on things that matter. So somewhere having that mindset shift towards time is very important. And at the same time, there is some wisdom in some of these words which are there here. As you go through, initially you feel that that time is scarce resource. Later you understand you have to invest it. Later on you realize that you will never be able to find time. You have to make time for things which are important. And then the most important thing is, at a senior level, you start understanding that it is really about knowing what not to do, really, rather than what to do. So I think as your career ladder progresses, people move from an individual contributor to a manager. There are various things that change your way of, there are ये जो पड़ाव होते हैं जिंदगी, in a career, उसमें something has to shift. You have to go ahead and shift from one thing to the other. So from an individual to a manager,
Hi, hello. I think there is a lag. There is tech issue at the speaker's end.
priorities, thinking long term, and then you go on to become an enterprise leader, right? Where you own the full company vision, culture, and external relations. And all of this, what got you from one place to the other will not get you to the next step, right? So it really,
Excuse me, Salil.
yeah.
I think we lost you in between. That was also announced. So you probably could you please start from the beginning?
Start from the
And
beginning.
some individual contributor.
Okay. So anyway, I had just read through the entire thing. The slide is all populated. So the most important thing is that you will not be able to go further from one step to the other when if you really do not change something in the way in which you approach things. So something has to shift, something in your mindset, something in your approach has to shift every time. And it is not only about time management, right? It is sometimes about the way you look at, let's say, policies. Policies is a subject in the company. At the individual contributor level, you have to implement the policies, you have to abide the policies. As a manager, you have to ensure that your team is implementing them, and you have to understand hence the why behind the policies. As a manager, you have to then start understanding the exceptions and what situations are exceptional for which you have to take an approval from the functional leader. As a functional leader, you have to develop the ability to create the policies, right? As a business unit leader, you have to ensure that people are empowered to create their own policies, and you have to guide them in terms of and approve those policies. So this is just an example of policies, but even time management similarly is a journey. People management is a journey. Ability to drive objectives and look at strategy is a journey. And at every point in your career, these things change. I have just taken up a topic of time management today, but really you can, as you move through this journey, you can see your abilities changing, your capability changing on all of these things, right? So so let's go through hence my journey of understanding what is time management. So the early concepts of time management is something that I talk. This is the Eisenhower matrix, urgent versus important. I think everybody here would be knowing clearly what this is, right? They say that something which is not important and urgent, you have to delegate it. What is urgent and important right now, you have to do it, drop everything else. What's not urgent and important, you can schedule it for later. And not urgent, not important, you can delete it. Now, when I looked at this in MBA, I felt, wow, this is a fantastic 2x2 matrix, and I should work like this. But when the rubber hit the road, when I really started working and everything was urgent, how do you classify things? I mean, these work doesn't come with labels saying I'm important or I'm urgent. It doesn't come like that, right? So then how do you really go through this life? So it seemed to me once I started working to be quite theoretical. It seems simple, but it didn't work for me. It seemed that everything was urgent, everything was important. Especially everything comes to you from your bosses. So how do you tag tasks? And more importantly, how do you avoid distractions? Luckily, when I was a young manager, we didn't have too many distractions like they are today, but you could focus. You didn't have these mobile phones and so on and so forth. There wasn't social media. That is the whole thing. But then these concepts of planning and prioritization was something that I was told by my bosses, saying that you need to plan and prioritize. And what is the difference between planning and prioritization? Planning is about, if you have a particular objective, then you have to break it down into actions. You have to create a plan for that objective, right? And then you have now so many tasks which are there for different objectives, different projects, different lines of business. And now it is all about prioritization. What do I do today? What do I do tomorrow? And spending time on this activity of prioritization, I felt, is the most important thing that you have to then do, right? And you look at, hence, I felt that was a good concept. I started breaking down things, getting into clarity, and then scheduling some time, and that helped a little bit. But then I found when I was looking at a training program for some of the frontliners, I found that there is actually a better concept than the Eisenhower matrix or on planning and prioritization, right? It is called as the activity effectiveness grid or the impact effectiveness grid. Okay. The concept is that can you prioritize some things which will actually allow you to save time or make time, right? So there are activities which are important in the long run, which we tend to postpone because they are important, but they are not urgent, and you tend to postpone them, right? Because right now there is something urgent that you have to complete. Okay. These are some of the activities are impactful in the long run, and some of the activities are very important for the short run, right? So here is what the 2x2 matrix actually looks like. Okay. So there are things which we do for today, for today's business, for today's profitability, and there are some things that in that are less effective and some things which are effective, right? There are some things that you do for tomorrow's profits or tomorrow's business, tomorrow's turnover, or tomorrow's better future. Okay. In that also, there are some things which are lesser effective and some things which are more effective. And I'll give you examples, right? And let's refer to these as quadrant 1, quadrant 2, etc. Right? For saving, for reference sake. For example, as a young manager, I used to work on various Excel reports, and every week or every month you had to churn some of these things out and give. I'm talking about the 1990s, right, where Power BI and all of those things were not there. Okay. And I found that learning a macro and automating some of the tasks in Excel at that time helped, or ensuring that the data is made in such a way, or automating some of that stuff was helpful. Now that is a quadrant 2 activity. But for example, learning a new formula in Excel which helps you to do the same things faster, or learning some shortcut keys in Excel, for example, right, would ensure that my work was happening faster. But learning takes time. The effort taken to learn something new and try something new so that your quadrant 1 activities are done faster, that effort is a quadrant 2 activity. So let's say you constantly keep on churning Excel reports, but you don't learn Power BI today, okay? Or you don't learn how to utilize AI today, or how to, let's say, program in some of the languages which will help you make faster, access to information. Then you are going to constantly be in this quadrant 1 where you have to spend a lot of time here. So as I'm going through work, I started realizing that I have to be a little lazy. I have to start thinking, how can I eliminate this activity completely? And that is the quadrant 2 work. Okay. What is quadrant 3 and quadrant 4? Let's say if I get an insight of how to drive growth in my business, then the job of going to the market, understanding the insights, identifying those, it takes a lot of hard work, and spending a lot of time on that. But then identifying some of these insights and doing some transformative work in the business, let's say coming up with a completely new module, some new way of doing growth activity in such a way that the growth activity is far more effective. So doing in quadrant 4, you do something which impacts the future a lot more. So when I started thinking about these things, I realized that spending time on quadrant 2 helps in saving time, and working on quadrant 4, we might be able to spend 5% of the time on quadrant 4, but we must be cognizant that we should try and do some of that. But definitely try to prioritize some things in quadrant 2. Quadrant 1 will constantly take your time, right? It is all the activities, like for example, for a frontliner, it is going to be to take an order from a competition dealer, go and do your regular sales. All the activities that an organization also does, from order to cash, all of these things are usually in quadrant 1. It is the bulk of the activity. It is 80% of the time gets spent here. But spending 15-20% of the time to make this more effective. Let's say getting back into at the end of the day and thinking, how did I pitch to this dealer? How can I make that pitch a little more better? Can I develop a way to showcase things? Spending time on that seems to be a waste of time at that time, but that saves you a huge amount of time here, right? Or you can go ahead and then think about, why am I constantly trying to fight so much of taking orders from a competition dealer? Can I create a loyalty plan? Can I create something which makes this completely a different order of activity? And then can I develop, if you think about a module which can completely drive advantage over competition, okay, will then be a transformative thing for the way in which you manage your share gain activities. The same way, your total order to cash activities that you do in the organization, is a regular kind of a work. You spend most amount of time. But if an organization looks at implementing ERP, which makes this very, very easy, then that's a quadrant 2 activity. And looking at some of the growth activities, like, initiatives that you do for, let's say, this Ashwamedh was our internal initiative in Pidilite to drive throughput in the rural markets, right? So that, for example, for a Pidilite would be something which is driving growth for the future. Spending time on initiatives is a quadrant 3 activity. But then for a Pidilite, doing some of these mergers and acquisitions and buying out firms, those are for the top management quadrant 4 activities, right? So when you look at an activity, now you're able to tag it. You know that, is this some repetitive activity? Then it's a quadrant 1 activity. Is it an activity which I can do to eliminate quadrant 1 or to make it far more effective? Then it's a quadrant 2 activity. So keep on spending more time here. But then am I doing enough for the future? Are there things which are going to lead to growth for future? It's not going to do anything for today's business, this quarter's business, nothing, right? But it will help me to do business in a couple of quarters later or next year, etc. Then that becomes a quadrant 3. And then there is a quadrant 4, which is, something which completely transforms the organization or your workplace, etc. So any questions on this? Because this, I think, has been a concept which has helped me the most in terms of how to tag activities. Then prioritization becomes easy. Okay. And then it's only about discipline about how to do that. So if there are any questions on this, I will take them now. Otherwise, I will move ahead. Okay, great. So this is the activity effectiveness grid. So manufacturing, for an organization, for example, all review meetings, all manufacturing operations, all of this fall into the quadrant 1. But every time there is a product training, there is a learning and development, cost saving initiatives, IT development, SAP projects. These are all operational level things which directly impact the profitability of the here and now and improve the quadrant 1. All programs which are capability development, which will ensure that your people are far better capable in the future, become quadrant 3. New product introductions, marketing initiatives, going into new geographies. These will give you profitability in the future. These are growth and expansion projects. And then there are some things which are complete new GTM. Can I go into quick commerce? Can I go into, a full new stack of going B2B or from B2B coming to B2C, new lines of business, new acquisitions? This becomes, quadrant 4. So use this kind of a thought. Now you can actually go ahead and apply this even to your life. This, every day you go to office, do a lot of stuff, lot of work. Mostly that is all quadrant 1. Today, you are sitting down here and reflecting upon it by attending this particular, workshop. It is a quadrant 2 activity. Hopefully it will help you to do your quadrant 1 activities, your main responsibility a little better. If you go ahead and do some kind of program to improve, learn a full new skill set, you get into a, let's say, a formal training program, capability development program, or, you do that, that's a quadrant 3. It will give you growth in the future. And you completely change your job, or you go ahead and take on another role, which is at a higher level, where even right now you're not entirely capable, you're 60% capable there, but you take on some, difficult challenging role, then that could be a quadrant 4 activity for yourself and your career. You can apply it to your life also, you can apply it to your relationship also. Think about what these things would be. So the idea is to list down activities, in order, and then go ahead and put them into quadrant 1, quadrant 2. So think about it on your personal side, reading books, sales follow-ups, improving where do you put each one of these, right? In the interest of time, I will move ahead, but we would have otherwise done this particular exercise. But do this exercise for yourself, and try and see which one of these sounds to be a transformative, which seems to be a growth activity, and what seems to be a quadrant 2 activity which improves your efficiency, right? So reducing operational things, making the operational efficient, growing differentially, and transforming. So these are the things. Now you need to think at what level in the business you are. Are you in the, at the lower junior levels in the organization, middle management, senior management? You have to hence give time accordingly to this. Okay, but all of you would typically have enough opportunity to do these quadrant 2, 3, and 4. Don't get stuck in quadrant 1 all the time. Okay. So that's how you ensure that you are making more time. But then let me show you a video and tell me if let me see if I've shared it along with. Also share the audio tab. Yes. Okay. Sharing again. Right. So there is a concept of how do you make more time. Time seems to be a finite thing, right? And some of you might have already seen this particular video, but that's something which I think really opens up our mind in terms of how do we lead our life. Okay. So yeah,
Okay,
there
when
you
it comes to time management, we all have the same amount of time. This is
are you
our
able to hear the
time,
sound?
and if we fill it up with all the little stuff that we have that we want to
Yes.
do,
Yes.
this
Yes.
is like spending time on TV and video and just stuff that maybe isn't the most important things in the world, but it's fun to do, little stuff like that. And then these are the other things that are kind of important. We'll make sure we get those done. We'll kind of put those in and add those to our time. That kind of takes up a little bit more space. And now we've got these big rocks. These are the things that are most important in our life, but we've already started filling up our jar. And now we want to put all the important stuff into our time, but we have a problem because it's not going to fit. But what would happen if we take our big rocks and instead we've got the same amount of rocks, the big rocks, medium rocks, and all the little stuff in life, same amount of time as we had before, but this time we're going to put the big rocks in first. This is the most important stuff to us. I'm going to put our big rocks in, and it takes up some time, but we're going to put them in first because they're most important. And then we're going to take the other stuff in life that's also important. I'm going to add that to our schedule. Put those in.
So at this point in time, it
Now
seems
we're
as
gonna
if
fill
now
it
there
up
is
with
no
that other
space for
stuff
the
that we
sand.
really like to do, and we want to have fun. We want to use our time wisely. And as you see, once we put the big rocks in first, all that other stuff, we have time for it. We can make time for those things, and we can get it all in. But we need to decide what are the big rocks and put those in first.
Right. So the big rocks are the most important things that you have to do, right? Big rocks are the most important projects, the most important initiatives, going after those, or in your own personal life, it is doing some kind of learning activities, some things that are dear to you. Those are the big rocks. And lots of times we say that, oh, that I didn't have time for that. And the trick is on every Sunday evening, you have to schedule out the big rocks in your entire week. You have to say that these are the things which are important in my business, and I am going to give that 1 hour slot on various days and block most of your calendar with it. On your personal side, if vacation, spending time with your family, that is important, then every year in beginning of Jan or something, you say that, okay, I'm going to do this particular vacation. Let me block out that time, send out a mail and take a PL. Block out that time for the vacation on your personal side. I block my vacation time nearly 6 months in advance, and then it is non-negotiable, right? And just go ahead and block it. So I think otherwise you will never be able to get around to doing the important things if they come last. If you just go to office on a Monday morning and the urgent keeps on hitting you, it doesn't work. So Sunday evening is the time that you have to give for putting the big rocks in, right? So let's move forward. So this is the key is not to prioritize what is on your schedule. So not to prioritize जैसे meeting calendar में आते रहते हैं. That's not what you should be scheduling. Schedule what's important way in advance, right? And that's what comes in from the 7 habits of highly effective people. It's a concept which comes from there. But the video is one is reading the book, but when you see it actually happening, you realize that there is some truth in it, and then you implement it on every Sunday evening. that helps. But then this is about prioritizing the most important things, and understanding how to tag things, so that you can prioritize them. But then what about, as you rise a little bit, one level up, and you move from a manager of manager, let's say, to go to the next level, which is to be a functional leader or a business leader. That time you have to start thinking about prioritizing for the organization, right? And in my previous organization, I found that there was an very interesting organized way of ensuring that everybody prioritizes the important things in the organization itself. Usually, managers would think that at the entry level, people feel that, oh, I have to do multitasking. There are so many things that I have to do, that I have to multitask all the time. I have to look at everything that is there on my plate. Okay. But then my hobbies, my family priorities, what I love to do, all of this, if I find time, I will go ahead and do. Right. So similarly, within the company as well, when you are working, you can classify activities into three things. One, we are all either running the business or we are fixing the business. So running the business is doing all the quadrant one activities for the here and now. But sometimes some things are broken, some process needs to be implemented or improved. So there are some geographies where you have to change the distributor, let's say, or you have to improve some kind of a metric in your products and stuff like that. That is the fixed part of the business. Okay. So we spend a lot of time on this running and fixing of the business. But what separates great companies from good companies is the amount of focus that is given to changing the business itself, right? And ideally speaking, they say at a functional manager level, you have to spend at least 30% of the time in things which are going to change your business, the way you do the business or what you do in it. Okay. And 70% of time to this. And at a top management level, maybe at the board level or the managing director, CEO or CEO -1 level, they should actually be spending only 60% of the time on growing the business. Okay. Only 10% of the time in running the business and 30% of the time for transforming the business. Right. But question is that when you are sitting at these levels, how do you ensure that your teams are spending time on, changing the business and giving 30% of the time for those things, right? So if you have to give 30% of the time, typically managers will come back and say, I don't have time for this. I have got so many urgent activities that my time is spent in only running and fixing the business. That's the only time that I have available for. So the way is that you consider these things as, fix and run is something which is, of course, it is important, but you give only 70% of the time to that. Look at some of the unimportant activities that are there in the fix and run, okay, and leave them as sand, okay. Leave that as something that you will not schedule for, but schedule the rocks. The changing of the business is something that you schedule within that much time itself, right? So schedule in most important thing at an organization is the change agenda. The initiatives have to be scheduled in very, very clearly first, and then the running and fixing of the business will take care by itself. And what will not happen is some of the more unimportant activities. So look at it this way. There are many, many things that are there which a manager might have to do. Strategic segment के ऊपर focus करना है, नए partnerships बनाने, growth segments करने, periphery development, very important things to do. Okay. Some of these activities would be there like distributor management, team retention, improving. These are the things that you do to drive the business. And then there are some other things which might be specific to your own business or your own area. My own area, there is a low growth. There is some regional competition which is there only in my geography, but not in the national level. Okay, there are products which are locally relevant but not growing well, and I have an opportunity there. So typically what will happen is these are areas which require strong process, sustained long-term work, something which comes in from strategy, something which is important across the organization. This is the change agenda, right? Then there are some things which are the fixed agenda, or these are the continuous improvement agenda, which is also important. Okay. And then there are things which are important only in your geography, right? Only for your role. let us say. It may not be important for the organization as such, but for you to do these things better, there are opportunities for you. So we have to tag these activities can be tagged as major initiatives which the entire business has to look at. Then there are operational efficiency elements which you derive as you on a monthly level review the business. Okay. And then there are local opportunities which you identify at your own level. This is not something which is identified at a team level. So how do you then go about it? The concept within Pidilite was that you have these major initiatives which have transformation potential. These everybody has to do and give adequate amount of time for. And this was reviewed from top to bottom. These are very extremely important businesses, and through which the tasks which came in were clearly tagged as these are major initiative tags, and you have to go ahead and give priority to this. Then there is the operational efficiency element which is there of continuing the current business, right? And you, this is the fixed agenda, running agenda, but in that there is an improvement part of it. So you take some initiatives for that, okay, for improvement of the operational efficiency. Think about this as the quadrant 2. And then there are opportunities to grow the business incrementally at a local level. This is something which is only in your role. So MI, OE, and LO. And then depends upon how your cluster is or how your own geography base. You know, if you have a cluster which is there where the cluster has got all basics in place, then you can go ahead and give 60% of the time to the strategic agenda, the big company agenda. Yeah. To your own part of the agenda, 30% of the time, and 10% of time to local opportunity. Right. But if you have a broken cluster, then forget about the local opportunities. Give all the time to major initiatives, the strategic agenda, and your fixing agenda. You have to spend time only on these things, right? And then, so if you have a basic infrastructure in place, but there is a high local opportunity, then you can give a little bit more time to the local opportunities. So this is the way in which the guidance was given to frontline managers or head office managers, that this is the way you spend time. Strategic agenda, priority 1. Any of your fixing and operational efficiency, that's the rock number 2. And then rock number 3 is your local opportunities. But these are all rocks, and they were all scheduled into the business with regular reviews and regular priorities, right? So that's the concept of how do you prioritize at an organization level. And the methodology was to give key initiatives, right? So every manager in the organization drives key initiatives. From role and responsibility, these initiatives are identified and then they are devolved. So what are key initiatives? Key initiatives are some things that improves the fundamentals of the business. They are generally of a complex nature. It requires a lot of thinking, problem solving, but they are also for a brief period of time, 2 to 4 months, 2 to 6 months, right? Now they could come out of the role that you have, or they could come out of some strategy document which requires to be implemented in your area, or they could be new opportunities. Yeah, but these are initiatives which are given specific amount of time. There is an outcome metric, etc., and then you implement it. Whereas role and responsibility tasks are things that are the quadrant 1 activities, the things that you constantly do and run, right? So they are repetitive, ongoing nature. So these should not be confused. This is exactly the change agenda versus the run and fix agenda, right? And then there were formats which were created. Okay, a statement. What is the key initiative? It has to be an action verb. What is done, where, by whom? Where does it come from? Is it from strategy? Is it local initiative? Or is it coming in from some broken piece which has been identified in the review? What is the measurable outcome? Why are we doing this? What are we trying to achieve, right? And what will be the lasting benefit to the business, right? And it should be something which is a continued benefit, that after you have done the initiative also, the benefit should continue. It should not be that it goes up like a rocket and comes down, right? What to do, how to do. So, this is something which is exactly detailing out what is going to be done in the next 2 months, 6 months, etc. And also write down what are the anticipated problems, difficulties, milestones. So a manager writes down all of this and takes it to his superior, and the superior will go to it, and there is a software which is created for managing the key initiatives. So this is all validated, and then there is a guidance given, and then it is reviewed on a regular basis. So it is not a perfect system within Pidilite, But what it does is it makes people at least start thinking that my job is not only to run the business, my job is to improve the business, my job is to create some impact. And that's how the entire organization functions. And 50% of the year-end KPIs are given to how well you have identified these initiatives, how well you have run them. So this is how systematically you can actually go ahead, and there is a checklist of how a key initiative is. Is this a key initiative which has been written well or not, right? So, so I have covered, just to take a quick recap, I have covered my journey until now, where, you know, initially it seemed as if I have to just do a lot of activities in a faster time. I have to go ahead and do a lot more in the same amount of time. And then I realized that this entire prioritization business is required because I don't have time for everything. But then prioritization didn't have any, I didn't know how to tag activities as important or urgent. And then that quadrant 1, quadrant 2 kind of a mechanism came into play, the activity effectiveness grid. And then I realized what are the different types of important activities, how do I identify them so that I can prioritize them. And then came the next stage where I realized that it is not only about, prioritizing things. You have to prioritize things so that you can save time. So you have to go ahead and look at, how can you schedule in these particular big rocks so that your work becomes easy. And then came the job of ensuring that not only me, but the entire organization is focusing upon the important and not just doing the run-of-the-mill activities. So this is the KI methodology, the key initiatives methodology, and the way to change, to focus on the change agenda. What I'm going to now talk about is something which is very, very interesting, which is something that I'm on the journey of. There are people who have been there and understood this thoroughly and are experts at it. But I think this is the journey which is more recent for me, right? So when you look at multitasking, multitasking seems to be the goal initially, right? As I talked, at a junior level, you want to end up completing everything. Multitasking is also, however, a very, very misunderstood concept. Humans, the human brain is known for only be able to do only one thing at a time. Humans cannot do multiple things at a time. At any one given point in time, you're only doing one thing, right? So multitasking is a result and not a method. So what is the method itself? The method is prioritizing, planning, and focusing, right? So you have scheduled various things in the day, but at one point in time, you are focusing completely on that one thing, right? Focusing to such an extent that you get into flow. You get into the stage of flow, your brain starts working at a different level of efficiency. You're completely absorbed in that particular task. So how do you go ahead and do that? And what is focus, right? So focus is why is this not moving? Yeah. So in the middle management, we crave for focus. In fact, sales mein agar aap kisi ko bhi pucho ki bhai, what are you going to do about this? Sales are down in a particular product or a particular geography. Bola, sir, I will focus upon it, right? So focus is actually a much abused term, especially, in sales and in reporting. But there is actually a full, body of work. One Daniel Goleman has written a book and he has dedicated his entire life to understanding what is focus, and focus is really the hidden driver for excellence for everything as per him, right? So we have to understand what focus really means, and you have to make focus your own reality. Now there is a nice TED talk. So if you say focus, Daniel Goleman, he gives a nice TED talk, and I have done lectures on just this one topic itself. I'll just give you a brief here, to ensure that we have some time for discussion, right? So what he says, Daniel Goleman says, is that there is a huge amount of sensory distraction all the time, right? You're driving, you're having coffee, you're also looking at the mobile, you're doing your homework, and there is some notifications which come. You're sitting with your wife and there are notifications. I'm sure that gets corrected very immediately for those who are married, right? There are new offers, there are constantly flashing lights which catch your attention all the time. But then this is all which is an economy which is built on distracting your attention, right? The entire social media, the billions of money that Mark Zuckerberg makes is by distracting you, is by taking your attention away onto the product. In fact, they say that you are the product, right? But there is another distraction which is even more tougher. This is the emotional distraction, right? You're trying to do something, but then your mind wanders. Am I in the right company? Am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? In the evening, there is something else, or you start feeling the stress, you start feeling the pressure. Your mind starts wandering onto the fight that you had with your wife in the morning, or your parents are not well. So the emotional distraction is actually much tougher. You can do hardly anything about that, right? Because it's your mind itself taking its own attention away into something else. So the most important thing is you have to notice this thing. Notice that you are getting distracted. The most important factor is how much time pressure you have and how little time you have. You start noticing, understanding, and empathizing. It's almost as if you as a manager are working, but your own self is watching you, how you are doing. Are you able to do that? Are you able to observe yourself working and observe how you are giving your attention to what things? Okay. If you are not in that zone, you may not notice at all. Ki aaj, how am I today doing right now? You may not notice at all, right? And what does that lead to? There is this stage of flow, or your ability to perform, and there is this level of pressure, right? So at a very low level of pressure, there is boredom. Agar kuch bhi pressure nahi hai, so your performance is not going to peak. And at very high level of pressure, there is frazzle, or there is breakdown, as they say. Okay, it is somewhere in between there. At certain optimal level of stretch is where your performance is at the highest. Okay, and sometimes that is where you achieve your state of flow as well. So people sometimes say that pressure, अच्छा नहीं है, but it is not. बहुत ज़्यादा pressure अच्छा नहीं है. If there is less pressure also, it is not good. If there is too much pressure also, it is not good. It is somewhere in between is where it should be. So as you are in senior management, you should be able to understand what is happening. You should be able to observe how your own being is. How much of a state of stress are you in? And then how can I go ahead and regulate that? How can I make that cognitive so that your performance is higher, your ability to deliver is higher, your ability to focus on the task is higher, and you are able to hence make a lot more out of the time that you have given to a particular activity. And then, this is just for your information that there are two different types of focus. One is selective focus, which I have been talking about until now. And then there is a wandering attention. There are times when you have to actually allow your attention to wander. This is the creative solutions. So there are times when you have to give a lot of focus to a problem and then just leave it and do something which is interesting, like read a book or sleep on it or go for a bath, and then the creative juices flow and you get a solution, right? So the book also talks about that. So not only focus, but this wandering attention and going from one to the other is also the right way of actually dealing with your life. Not constantly being in a state of focus can burn you out, right? So, and then there are three different types of focus again. One is the inner focus, the focus on yourself. How am I doing right now? I'm right now sitting, I'm talking to you guys. Is my speech pretty lucid, or am I slurring? What is happening? Am I connecting with you guys? Are you there? Are you not there? This is like, and what am I feeling? How am I feeling inside? Am I calm? Am I not? Right? The other focus is about, am I connecting with you? Are you guys listening? Are you not listening? Is it working or not? That's the other focus. Okay. And for that, you require three different types of empathies. I'll not go into the detail here. And then there is the outer focus, looking at the bigger picture, looking at the environment, looking at how the world is at this point in time. That is the outer focus. That's the bigger piece which is required for strategy. So at higher levels of leadership, you have to have all these three types of empathy. You have to have very high inner focus, and you also have to have the outer focus. So you are actually observing yourself. You are actually observing your brain in terms of where it is. And it seems overwhelming to many middle managers when I talk about all of this, that I understand how to do my business, I understand how to do the task, but you are asking me to observe myself. That is tough, right? It is tough, and that's why only very, very senior leaders are able to go ahead and do that. But then it is not difficult to build. Okay. And the way to build that is meditation. So I'll talk for 5 minutes about meditation. Okay. What is meditation? I mean, a lot of times people feel that meditation is about focusing on doing nothing or focusing upon one thing. Actually, it's absolutely the opposite. Meditation is about doing nothing, right? The meditation is about just observing yourself, observing what is the reality right now. If you're taking a breath, you're just observing that. It is not about, there is nothing like doing a great meditation or I did not have a good meditation. Meditation is about just observing yourself, let's say your breath or your body or your sensations, so that you are aware about where your attention is, right? So meditation is about giving attention to your attention. Attention is a muscle, right? So if you're sitting down to meditate and you are doing nothing from your body point of view, the attention will wander, right? The attention will go ahead somewhere else. The moment you catch it, that, oh, I have started thinking about this now, and you bring it back onto your breath, let's say, that is one exercise. Just like attention is a muscle, right? Just like you go into a gym and you do some repetitions, you lift up some weights, okay? And every time you lift a weight, you count it as one repetition, and then you do some 10 repetitions. Meditation is something like that. Every time the mind wanders and you get it back, that is a repetition. Wandering mind is not the problem, okay? The objective is to bring it back. Every time it wanders and you get it back, you think to yourself, I have got it back, right? And now I will again observe it. Moment it again wanders, another repetition, again bringing it back. So the objective of meditation is to build this muscle of getting the attention back to where you want it. Okay, mind is like a monkey, it will go everywhere. How do you go ahead and catch it and bring it back and get better and better at catching and bringing it back to what is the current activity? That is called as meditation. That's the building the muscle for meditation. So never go ahead and say कि मैं meditation के बैठा था, लेकिन my mind kept on wandering. Of course, mind will wander. That is the nature of the mind. But then the fact that you observed that it wandered means that you have brought it back. Okay. So the moment you ask it to stop that thought train and bring it back, then you are successful in your meditation. Okay. You have done that exercise. Okay. And meditation has dual payoffs. One, your ability to focus will go up. And second, your ability to observe your own mind, understanding yourself, cognitive control, understanding other people, their emotions, and their connect with you, and your connect with the overall world, the inner focus, the outer focus, and the other focus. All of these things will actually go ahead and improve, right? And why am I mentioning this? I'm mentioning this because what seemed to be, when I started my career, to be just a problem of time management, I realized that it is not about time management or task management or priority management. Okay, it is actually a much larger game here. Okay, success and doing better at your career is by having more cognitive control, having a more control on yourself, understanding yourself, observing yourself. And the way to do that is to do meditation, right? Way to strengthen yourself there. That leads to emotional maturity. These two are the biggest predictors actually of corporate success, right? And hence, I understand now, after 30 years in my career, it is not about managing time. It is not about managing priorities. It is not about organization managing priorities. Finally, it is only about managing yourself. Okay. So all the best to you in your journey. I hope that this has been interesting and useful to you. So I'm now good for any questions.
Hi, Salil. Thank you for the talk. I think this is the right time because I'll be setting up the new year objective for my associates and for myself as well. And I think I've been setting this objective for a year, but really not thinking about that dividing the time between future growth and the quadrant you talked about. So any particular learning you would have for setting up the next year's KPI or KRA business performance when we're setting?
See, these new year and goal and objective settings are things that everybody knows that happens and then it goes away, right? So it doesn't last. So what I would rather ask you to do is to think about how you can identify the right way of managing this on an everyday basis. And it's not going to be easy, right? So if prioritizing, don't think about I'm going to achieve this, going to achieve this goal, drive this much of growth, etc. That achieving, let's say, high sales numbers, etc., is an outcome. So focus on the process. Focus on the process. As I said, if you feel that prioritizing is important, then ask that yourself that on every Sunday I'm going to put in the big rocks in. Okay. Now that's not going to be a habit which you are going to form very easily. So be okay with it if you miss out on a few Sundays. That's also all right. But just go and get back onto the horse if you fall down. More important that you get back onto the horse if you feel, oh, last Sunday I didn't do it. Okay, do it this Sunday. Be easy on yourself. And otherwise, what happens is that we pledge something on the beginning of the year. Somewhere during January, we try to do things better. But then by February, then you have lost. You're saying, "Ki, wo to chhoot gaya." To chhoot gaya to reh gaya, right? To chhoot gaya to reh gaya nahi hona chahiye. You should say, "Arey, chhoot gaya." Now, just like that wandering attention, and now I'm getting it back. Just get better at getting back onto the horse. Okay.
I think we
All
lost
the-
Salil.
Sorry, I think I lost the connection.
Yeah.
So I was just saying that don't be partial to January. Have resolutions every month. Every month, look at it as to what you need to do to get back onto the horse. If something is not worked out well in terms of what you had planned, how do you get back at it? Okay. Do that every week. Look at it doing every Sunday, right? Look at thinking about observing yourself, thinking about it every Sunday or at the end of every day. These reflections are extremely important. How you did on time, how you did on prioritizing, what are the important things. But don't beat yourself up. Don't think about it that something is not done well. Think about how you can get back into improving things for yourself.
Thank you, Salil. If others are not asking, I have one more question. There are a lot of associates, you work and you make plan, and they're really in line with you. They're doing everything, but some folks are not, and many of my time goes in making them, bring to the reality of pushing. So many different people, so many different objectives. How we make sure that everyone is, pushing towards that goal? Any learning from your experience?
So, first of all, if it is your goal, then they will not go ahead and achieve it. Why should they achieve your goals, right? So most important thing that I have realized in execution is that there are two things to execution. One is about alignment. So you need to make in alignment, you have to make it their goal. It has to be something that they feel is the right thing. They should understand what is in it for them to achieve that goal or align with a particular process to achieve that goal. They should really feel that they have to do it for themselves, for their team, right? And that it is the right thing to do. A lot of times we just go ahead and tell people that this is what you have to do. But by our telling, it doesn't mean that they have understood it, absorbed it, and aligned. So my view is that in execution, more than 50% of the effort has to go in aligning people. Okay. Check whether you are doing adequate amount of that. And then the rest of the effort has to be in regular reviews. Okay. How do you go ahead and review so that you tell them that this is something where maybe you have gone off track, and these reviews have to be creative reviews. It is not about you have not done stuff. Okay. It has to be about there must be some obstacle. There is some problem in the process because of which you are not able to achieve the goal, right? Let me focus on the process, or let me focus on the behavior. It is not, you are not bad, maybe your behavior is not allowing you to achieve the results. So the review has to be about the process, review has to be about the business. Review is not that you're not reviewing that person, you shouldn't doubt the intentions of that person. Okay, so alignment and then review, if you do it in the right attitude, then your team will start looking at you differently, and they will want to work, they'll be happier team, they will be willing to go ahead and work for your for the team objectives in a lot better manner.
Thank you so much, sir.
Okay, so just in that case, I think from today's presentation, if I were to pick out, it is about the other focus, the focus on them, what they are feeling, why is it, ask in that manner, really be curious about why things are not working out, and you'll be able to find the answer.
Thank you. I'll read that book, Focus. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Guys, is there any other question? Please feel free to ask.
Okay, I think yeah, is somebody wants to say something, or I think we can then bring it to a close. I think thank you, and I wish all of you all the very best in your journeys to becoming great managers.
And thank you so much, Salil sir, for taking your time out on this weekend and sitting with us, and all your efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Salil. Thank you, Ravi.